Well, Grant, thanks so much for taking the time, man. I know you're busy, so we very much appreciate you stopping by and spending a few minutes with us here on Behind the Braves. Happy July 4th. That's when we're taping this, by the way, so happy July 4th to you. Just a little bit about you. So you were born and raised in an area, one of my favorite areas of the country. So I did want to ask a little bit about Conway, and I spent a ton of time in Myrtle, North Myrtle, well, basically everywhere up there. So born and raised in Conway, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. What was it like growing up there? And I'm always curious because I love the beach, but I've never lived at the beach. So I'm curious, or near the beach, how often did you guys go to the beach growing up?
When I was smaller, younger, we went quite often because my uncle had a beach house down there in Ocean Lakes. So we would go down there, quite often, especially during the summer.
That's the the campground that's right. Yeah, okay. We my family we stayed in an RV and stayed for a week down there. Yeah. Tore up all the seafood buffets in the area.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Where were your go-to places around there growing up? Fun places to go?
The arcade in Ocean Lakes. That was my spot. I guess there in Krispy Kreme.
Krispy Kreme is still my favorite place in the world. That's the best. When you ride by and you see the hot one sign on,
hot sign, yeah,
that's when you know it's going to be a good day. Yeah. So when you were growing up, what first got you into baseball?
I mean, I'd have to say my brother. Grew up, going to his games, and just kind of fell in love with it.
What was he? What was his main position?
He was a pitcher as well.
Okay.
Yep.
When did you start playing?
When I was 4.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess right when I could start playing. I started playing at 4.
Okay. When did you play any other sports, or was it all baseball?
I played up until my end of my sophomore year. Played football, but I played soccer. Everybody plays soccer when you're younger, but yeah, football until I think it was my sophomore year. Okay. And I just stuck to baseball junior and senior year.
How early or when did it start to become apparent or realistic that hey, I might be good enough to play after high school, either professionally or college? Do you remember kind of when that started becoming a reality?
Probably when I started doing the bigger baseball tournaments, I forgot what they're called, the World Wood Bat and all that good stuff. I threw hard, ever since I was a little kid. So I knew I had that in it or going for me. But I would say probably after my freshman season, I kind of knew that, this was a good possibility for me to, play after.
There were scouts and everything showing up even as early as you were a freshman?
I wouldn't. I don't really remember.
Okay.
They may have been there, but maybe not for me, because there were some other guys on the team that were played with Jordan Gore and GK Young. They played at Coastal. GK won a World Series with Coastal, and they had some scouts there, and I feel like they started coming around more when my junior year, I started throwing harder and they started piling in there.
Did you feel any, that's a lot for a teenager, I feel like. Did you feel any extra pressure knowing they were there? Or did it just not even bother you?
It didn't really bother me. It took a lot to get under my skin, just laid back, go with the flow. I felt like, I always told people I felt like it made me do better, had the pressure on me. Because, I know a lot of people don't like pitching with pressure, but I feel like if you can pitch with pressure, you can obviously pitch without it, and it makes it a lot easier.
How hard was the decision to decide am I going to play in college or am I going to sign professionally? Because I think if I read right, not internet, you never know what's true and what isn't, but you had verbally committed to Florida?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So how hard was that decision to college or pro?
It wasn't that hard.
Okay.
To be truthfully honest with you, it was life-changing money, for my family and I. And, I wasn't that big of a school person. So the chance to get to go play baseball every single day or go to school and get to play baseball, I figured I'd take the money and go play baseball.
Yeah, loves Krispy Kreme and not a school person. You're basically just, this is a man after my own heart here. This is exactly how, you're describing me, minus the being able to play baseball well part. So what was that like? Now you're pro, still a teenager, but now you're playing every day like you wanted, but you're out on your own playing professionally. What was that early time like in the minors, but the first years as a pro?
It was a little weird. It was my first years living away from my mom and dad and having to, clean my own laundry. I mean, that's pretty much all I had to do because we were living in a hotel. So, waking up on time without having, mom and dad coming into my room and waking me up, it was a transition, but, I felt like it helped me grow up pretty quick. And, years past, I believe it's helped me, instead of going to, I feel like you go to college, you kind of have your, I guess, some person would kind of take you under their wing, and I was just all by myself, and I had to learn on my own.
So you spent basically a decade in the minors, and I can't imagine the grind that had to be. I think anytime you're in the minors, I know that's got to be a grind. I know you're getting to play professionally, but I know that there's the bus rides and all that. That's not for the faint of heart, and especially when you do it for that long. So what was that grind like for you? And I mean, you had the pandemic, the shutdown in the middle of all that, which affected you and everybody that was playing then. So how hard was that time from teenager to then getting up here? And I mean, did you ever think about quitting during that time?
Never thought about quitting. But, obviously the thoughts crossed my mind. It was, am I doing this, just because I have to, or, do I really want to? But, never the thought of like, all right, yeah, this is it. Never crossed my mind. But yeah, it was definitely a grind. Ever since they got the housing and stuff for the minor leaguers, I guess that was in 22 or 23. It made things a lot easier than, the prior years, because you had somebody taking care of your living. You get paid a little bit more, stuff like that. But then my first few years, I was taking care of the lease, paying the water bill, the electricity, all on my own as I'm a 19-year-old. It's kind of tough, but I met my wife now at the end of 2016, and she traveled everywhere with me, and that really helped a lot.
She was your biggest supporter during all those years?
Absolutely. Yeah. Along with my mom and dad.
Yeah. So I didn't ask when we were starting about your childhood and growing up. Who was did you have a favorite big league team and player growing up?
Yeah, it was the Braves.
Yeah, has to be. South Carolina, you got to be.
Yeah, got to be the Braves, and, I was a big Chipper fan, John Smoltz, Andrew Jones. I even grew up watching Freddie Freeman and Jason Hayward play in Myrtle Beach.
Really, with the Pelicans?
Yeah, hitting home runs off of that. I guess it was their clubhouse in right field.
Yeah.
This is, just going there and watching those guys. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know. I loved just love the Pelicans and the look in the Myrtle Beach and the town. It's great. So when you're signed over with the Braves in the minors, was there a little extra excitement for you knowing that this is close to home and the team that you grew up rooting for and watching?
Absolutely. I got released by the A's. It's kind of like, wow, I just got released by the A's. And then 2 weeks later, the team that just won the World Series just signed me to a minor league contract. It was my childhood team. So that was pretty special, coming over here, knowing that the name behind name on the jersey, just what it meant to me and what it, means to, I guess, like the game of baseball with them coming off of a World Series was pretty special.
When you got the call to come to the big leagues, just take me through the emotions of that and what that was like.
Well, it was crazy. It was last year, June 15th, because I made my debut on the 16th. Yeah, it was right before Father's Day there was a team meeting in the clubhouse. You know, I was like, that's kind of weird. We're having a team meeting right before, you know, Texas really doesn't ever have team meetings. So I was like, No, it was like a little thing in my contract where I had upper mobility. Like if, you know, the Braves didn't, I guess, act upon it, another team could put me on their big league roster. And I had like 3 days until it acted. I guess it went active on the 15th, and I had like 3 days, or they had 3 days to make up their mind. So I was like, man, they're probably going to take, you know, 3 days. And I was supposed to start that Sunday. And they came in. He was like, yeah, you know, tomorrow's Father's Day. And I guess I'm going to need a father to start the game because Grant's going to the big leagues. And it was pretty special.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
How many tickets did you have to get for the family down here, roughly?
You know, I got one from my mom and dad, and it was mostly, you know, agent, friends. My brother couldn't make it because he actually just got to their vacation in Florida the night of me getting called up. But, you know, I had people from Wisconsin come. You know, they took the first flight out. Then they flew back home right after the game. So I think I had probably 16 to 18 people here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like when guys get called up, that's kind of step one. You made it, you're here. But then staying here is another job all in and of itself. And not only have you stayed here, I mean, you've established yourself. You're a vital part of the rotation. So what is that like now that you've been here now for a little bit and you know you're here, you're staying here? Is that mindset easier when you know, like, hey, every fifth day I'm getting the ball, as opposed to being, for lack of a better word, like fringe guy? You don't know if you're going up, going down, but you're in the rotation. You're solidly in there now. You're one of the key people. Like, does the mindset get a little easier once you know you're getting the ball every fifth day?
Yeah, you know, it's a lot easier knowing your routine and when you're going to get the ball. But, you know, I feel like, you know, everybody's going to fail. But like when you fail in a start and you got to wait 4 to 5 days to make another one, it gets a little tough. But like your reliever, you know, have a tough one. You can come back a day or two later and have a good outing. Come back the next day or the next day, have another good outing, and it kind of flushes that one away. But as a starter, you got those 4 days to just unfortunately sit there and think about it. But, you know, having a good routine and being able to do the same thing every first, second, third, fourth day before your start I think it helps tremendously.
How often does somebody say the words Kenny Powers to you?
Quite often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wondered.
I mean, the other night after my outing, I guess it was the first time, you know, MLB posted something and said they called me Kenny Powers, and I was like, good night. You know,
I saw that too, and I was like, Grant's never escaping this one now.
Yeah, it's this. I was like, yeah, that seals the deal.
Yeah. He spent a season in Myrtle Beach in the show
Sure
too.
did.
I mean, you know,
it's crazy.
Yeah. I can say that when after we signed you, and I think it was your first spring training photo with us, because we do the digital media and the social media in addition to the podcasting, and I saw your picture and I went, I need this man to be called up. I need this man to make it, because our fans will immediately love him and love the hair. So it's glad you got a good sport about it, the Kenny Powers deal. Yeah. Well, Grant, thank you so much for taking the time, man. Best of luck moving forward, and we appreciate you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.